Hi, I'm Greg.
Hello, I'm Sheldon, and this is 30 Minute Music Marketing, the show for independent artists and DIY musicians who want to get better at marketing their music. That's you lot out there.
Smash that subscribe button. It's summer around here. Like
it
what
could
we
well
do.
be. Give us a like.
Give us a reason to live and
tell
continue
your
doing
musician friends about our podcast or our Vidionic outputs, whatever. Let's try and help as many musicians as we possibly can.
And we're also now doing a 1-minute edited brief version on our Instagram.
How's that coming along, Greg?
It's coming along very well. There's a thing here at Elusive Studios, and Sheldon will put his possibly.
You're just moving your finger around.
Yeah, I am.
In
It's
mid-air.
just
I'm
like-
doing that for the benefit of people who listen to the podcast. Hello, podcast.
So get on that if you want to watch an edited and slightly more convenient version, but also watch the full version if you want.
Now then, this is a very special edition.
Yes, it is.
30-minute music marketing, Greg, because we have guests for the first time ever.
We have viewers who've made it into the studio.
Viewers, indeed. Gentlemen, would you like to introduce yourselves?
Yep, certainly. So I'm James from Midnight at 6, singer and guitarist.
And I'm Dave from Midnight at 6, the bass player.
So James and Dave are avid listeners / watchers to the show, and we thought it'd be good for them to come in and maybe talk about their experiences in terms of music marketing, being an independent artist themselves, maybe discuss their successes, their failures, and I believe you might have some questions as well, and we can just do a bit of a ground report in terms of what it's like to be a DIY musician
on the shop floor, I guess,
in 2020.
So and James has been an avid watcher. He's watched this from episode 1, so he says he could just be sweet talking us. Who knows? So, Sheldon, would you like to get started?
Okay, gents, would you like to tell us about yourselves? Give us an elevator pitch in terms of your band and your musical output.
Yeah, certainly. So we're really influenced by the UK kind of northern indie scene. So Oasis, Arctic Monkeys, isn't we? Who else we got, Dave?
Everything really, things like the Smiths, anything like that.
Yeah, and we're all about sort of we're almost like a splice of kind of catchy hooks and choruses, but we want to sort of splice that with sort of jangly sounding guitar sounds to get the dance floor full, so we can kind of reach the indie market, but also have sort of radio friendly kind of hooks and things also, so we can sort of hit both audiences that way.
Do you like a 4 on the floor?
I do like a 4 on the
floor. There you go.
Can you give us 3 words to describe your band?
Energetic.
Good. Yeah.
Adventurous, and
he's thought about this, hasn't he?
Driven.
Ooh,
so
I like that.
3 quite good descriptive words. That gives the viewer listeners a bit of an idea. Can we give them a shameless plug in the description beneath?
Oh yeah, we'll do with all the necessary links in the description.
I was going to point in the air again, but
that's no good.
We'll do that in the description.
So how long have you been going as a musical ensemble?
Cool. Well, I think like any band, isn't it? It always kind of comes in bits and pieces. We first met. We were literally our first lecture together, weren't we, Dave?
First lecture,
September 2017, and then we jammed a little bit, and I guess it kind of came together in the summer of 2017 as myself, Dave, and Joe, wasn't it?
Well.
But I guess as the lineup as we've got it now would have been October 2018.
2018,
yeah, and we did our first gig in November. As the lineup that it is now.
So it's just probably in terms of the final finished products, it's probably mainly only about 18 months, would you say?
Yeah, just shy of that, I think, yeah.
So now, Greg, 18 months, would you say that's still very much in the embryonic inception period?
I think that's still very much in the finding your feet musically, because I mean this leads up really well to the next question. Really? In terms of like they're obviously going to be determining what their music sounds like by the reception they've had from their audience.
Quite possibly.
So how much stuff have you already released?
So we've just done 2 days in Park Street Studios. So we are we released 2 singles, which were not quite good enough. So we got rid of those. So we're just about to come out with.
How did you determine not quite good enough?
Oh, as in terms of like we recorded them ourselves and things, and the quality wasn't quite good enough for like.
So it's
official
more
spot.
the recording than the song itself.
Oh yeah, the songs were. Yeah.
Yeah, we do aim to re-record them, don't we? At some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what single we're coming up to due to release will be next? The third, fourth?
Fourth.
Yeah, so
not
fourth
made
like
up.
kind of official single, I guess. Yeah, so it's still early days, but
What I know, slightly going off track, but what was the deciding factor to go from doing it yourself to going to an establishment and working with someone else?
any thoughts, Dave?
Quality as well, really, isn't it? I mean, it's new set of ears on the music.
Yeah, I think like I'll hold my hands up and say like singing isn't my first instrument, so going into like a studio and working with a producer who can like obviously with the vocals being the forefront, I find really helpful. So there was also that element, but then also kind of when we released the first single, it was kind of okay. Then we released the second, and it just wasn't holding up to the standard of the top bands out there, which is obviously the case now with Spotify. And then also it's kind of nice to just go in one day and come out, because I think when you do it yourself, you sort of never tend to know when you've done enough for it.
Yeah.
And you sort of get a bit lost in your own world. And
I think the best comment I've ever heard regarding when do you know a record's finished?
Yeah.
And a record's finished when the money's run out. And I think that's really quite true, because you're right. When you're doing stuff at home, you can just deliberate for days and days. I mean, that's it. That's one thing that's really good about you, because even though you do get actively involved yourself, you are just like, not clock watching per se, but you are very much everything needs to be done.
Yeah, I'm a hard taskmaster, and I'm more than happy just to go. That's good enough. We'll move on, and if we've got time, we'll go back and redo. But I'm very much of a moving forward sort of person.
But that has probably come from your many years in the industry.
I wouldn't like to say. The focus isn't on me today. Focus isn't on me.
So, but you've realised that there was definitely merit working with someone else, working to a deadline, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely, because I think as well, because we did our first gig with a band called the Lecture Sets, who are doing really well now. They've just sold out one of their first headline shows, and they went straight into Parr Street Studio where we were doing it ourselves, and they started to pick up traction really quickly on Spotify. And we just noticed that we weren't getting on the playlist, and they started to get on some, so we thought it's got to be something to do with. So we sort of sent it around to people, and they're like, yeah, it needs to be recorded better, X, Y, Z. So we went into Parr Street, and we've started to see some good results now and things. And it is really nice when you've got that person there who just is that fresh set of ears, and it's almost like, because it's not that we argue, but I think it sort of it gives the band that sort of that person to look to in the studio, that kind of guide,
So, obviously going to a pretty well-known studio must be a bit of a milestone. Do you have any other milestones that you've already accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, what would you say, Dave? I mean, we've got some
First sold-out show, really.
Yeah,
that's the first milestone was.
Yeah, we sold out our first show at the Jacaranda in Liverpool. And then the first track that we did at Parr Street Studio, Stay Young, we don't know how, but it ended up getting played on the radio in California. We must have submitted
It's not a bad thing, is it?
Which then a producer from Los Angeles contacted us, and and then they offered us. They asked if we had any more, and then basically, offered us sort of film and TV publishing for licensing over in the States. So we're on the roster with a company called Brewhouse Music over in Los Angeles, and they've got offices in Chicago and New York as well. Hi, Dog.
Studio Dog has just entered the room. She was making her presence known outside of the studio control room. You're going to have to behave yourself, otherwise I will shoot you. Not really.
One for Petter there. One for Petter.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So we touched briefly on shows there. So Tell us more about those in terms of where they are, potentially in terms of location, how frequent, and potentially who you would describe as your audience. As in, when you're on the stage and you look out, does it tend to be people that you mostly know, don't know? But again, shows.
Dave, anyone?
A lot of the time, when I'm looking out, certainly, I mean, a lot of the people I don't know. So it's a big eye opener when you first sort of notice it. It's a lot of people you don't know. It's a good feeling sort of thing. Got to be honest.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, obviously, as anybody will know, and yourselves, it's always friends and family when you first start out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we're still, our next kind of, probably towards the end of the year is probably looking more towards shows outside of Liverpool. But yeah, we've noticed, I was just at a gig a couple of weeks ago and a couple of girls came up to me and asked for a photo. And this happened about 4 or 5 times now. They're like, "Oh, you're from Midnight 6, aren't you? We love you. Can we have a photo, etc." And just had no idea who they were. So things are definitely working.
Remember, never work with kids or dogs.
Or dogs.
Hello. So yeah, we're probably around the sort of late teens, early 20s market, I would say, from who attend our shows.
Good.
And how does it feel when they're singing your lyrics?
It is good.
Does it exceed the slight cliche kind of?
Yeah, because it was such like, I've played in sort of function and wedding bands for years, and it's always great when you get a great gig as ever. But when it's like our own stuff, isn't it? It's like a whole nother level of like, it's just really strange.
I find it useful that they kind of help remind you of your own lyrics.
Yes,
What's the next line again?
Yes, that's happened in my band quite a lot.
So, in terms of moving on to one of the next questions is how good do you consider your marketing knowledge? So, if you've been doing these, you've kind of upgraded your records, your recordings and stuff like that. Have you upgraded your marketing alongside it?
Ish. I mean, we've finally, I think our focus for quite a long time is to try and get some traction on Spotify, hasn't it?
It's just worked.
We've literally just found we're on. It's still a drop in the ocean in the grand scheme of things, but we've got about 1,400 monthly listeners now, which isn't too bad. So we've just started to crack a little bit on Spotify. We post pretty much every day on Instagram mostly, and Facebook, and we've done quite a few live streams and things in the past. And we always, follow the advice from here, film everything possibly. We always film gigs and photos and things.
Does it make a difference filming stuff?
Definitely, because you've always just got like a backlog that you can always turn to. And the great thing is, there's it's almost like an online database. So if you need to apply for a festival or anything last minute, have you got something we can see? You can bang straight on YouTube and it's there.
Yeah, it's in some ways it's your prep, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a constant like CV that you can just keep adding to. So it's always there.
What was your last show?
We're playing next Saturday.
It's gone straight in with a shameless plug.
At Sound Basement, which is already sold out, isn't it? We're supporting a band called the Stanleys, but we've gave shows a little bit of a break because our last one was a Freshers show at Heebie Jeebies in Liverpool, which went really well, didn't it? And we promoted that one ourselves. So we thought, we'll give a little bit of a break because we've done quite a few shows in Liverpool. So we'll give a bit of breathing space just so we don't saturate the market and give it a bit of breathing space.
So would you say that because of the marketing knowledge that you have, that isn't necessarily there in your musical peers, some of the bands that might have been around for around about the same time as you, I mean, would you say that you probably got more marketing knowledge than them, and has that enabled you to get a quicker further in terms of where you are in terms of selling shows and sort of musical streams? Can you find a direct correlation perhaps between what you know and how that has enabled you to get where you are now?
I mean, I reckon so, doesn't it? Because we've just had, we've also had an offer from a label in New York that our last single that came out, and they've offered us like a small kind of marketing and distribution deal.
How did they find out about you?
How did they find out about us, Dave? It was through Instagram Music, I think. We submit through DistroKid, and Instagram Music is now. And they said, "Oh, we've found you on there, and we're sort of interested. You know, have you got any more we can listen to, etc." So we've literally just had the contracts read from the legal team at the Musicians Union last week come back to us.
Are they members of the Musicians Union as well?
These guys are
Next, they're going to say they get the stuff Pat tested. It'll be like.
So yeah, I'd say. I mean, I think in terms of like own shows that we've done. I mean, we've done I think 2 sold out shows, haven't we? That we've promoted ourselves and things. Online and Spotify streams is not so much as our peers. So I think that's definitely more our kind of area to look at. But having said that, we've been played on radio in Canada, Australia, yeah, over in now New York, and we've had like a couple of labels interested in things with us. So I guess it swings and roundabouts.
Don't forget Spotify streams. It's only one metric. Obviously, it's an important metric in some respects, but it is only one of many. You can, there's YouTube views, there's Instagram followers, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's very easy to, like in Ari Herstand's books, like to get wrapped up in kind of streams versus, like you guys always say, building like a real audience. Of like dedicated fans that will like pay for your merch and pay for tickets to a show.
That's the thing, isn't it? I mean, it's your streams or your records are only really just one aspect of your merch, in terms of, and I know not to say to aim this so totally at you, but your biggest revenue is people coming to see you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's at least 80%.
Yeah, and that goes to show how big that is in terms of bums in seats is really what people need to be aspiring to.
In my band, it's around about 56,000 followers on Facebook, but we will sell maybe as many, if not more, tickets than somebody with 10 times as many followers, just because our followers, we are highly engaged with our audience.
So, do you have a website, mailing list?
We don't have one.
They were doing so well.
That's why I included it.
To be fair, Dave's got one ready to go, but we haven't launched it yet, to be fair.
What are you waiting for, gents?
Yeah. To be fair.
So the rule is that in terms of all these platforms, and indeed even sort of Spotify, that relationship with your audience is owned by the platforms.
Don't build it on rented
themselves.
land. Don't
build the house on rented land.
He really has what?
These guys are good. These guys.
What does he want? So, what makes you different to your peers? And I don't mean just your music. If you were to put it as an overall thing, what makes you different to get to, the point that people are starting to come knocking on your door?
I think, what would you say, Dave? What do you reckon?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot, really. There's a lot, and not a lot comes to mind, if you know what I mean. But
I think like we have a very kind of, we take what we do seriously, but not ourselves very seriously. So in kind of our music videos, and we're always kind of try to give like the personal touch as much as we can. So not trying to be this kind of fake, like, look at us, we're a cool band. We're like kind of quite ironic with a lot of the stuff we do, and we're just kind of that's sort of us.
I was about to say, I think there is a lot of personal touches. So even if we're messaging, it's all natural, laid out messages, no pre-scripted.
Yeah,
it's all engagement with fans.
Yeah, and I was reading this book a while back on musicians in the internet age, and it was such a brilliant piece of advice. And it was the things that you value most are often what your audience values least. So in terms of music videos and songs, not that they don't value them, but it's what you expect, and what you value least, the audience values most. So, lyric sheets and demos and things that you just throw away is actually golden for your audience. So we release all that stuff. We put our demos out, and we do Instagram competitions where they win.
Have you got people coming up and asking for your set list yet?
Have we? Yeah, we have signed a couple of set lists actually.
They love it. They literally cannot. I'm about to put stuff. Oh, can I have it? Can I? All right.
One of the bouncers came. I was doing the merch store on Saturday. One of the bouncers came up to me and he just went, "Somebody's asked if they can have a set." It's just like, it's only going to get thrown away. But it's like, it's
to them.
To me, it's a piece of paper that I just printed off on the printer. But for them, it's a souvenir of a great night that they've had, and it's something that they might treasure it for for years to come.
That kind of adds to my thoughts that I see a lot of bands judge what their fans like based on what they like, and they're usually wrong. I had one band who didn't want to do a competition because they don't like competitions. But the competition is not for you; it's for your audience, kind of thing. So
differentiation is I won't say it's the be all and end all, but anything that you can do to separate yourselves from the swarm of other bands that are out there, and if it's visual, if it's musical, if it's the way that you present yourself and communicate to your audience, anything that you can do that separates you and makes you stand out. Well, yourself standing out is in a very, very crowded marketplace, whether that's in the real world or online, is the one thing that you really need to try and emphasize.
Yeah, it's ironic, really, because when we had the single that Stay Young that got heard over in the States, we tried to be all kind of cool with the last couple of music videos. Well, not tried to be, but with Stay Young, we just took all our phone clips from nights out and made it into a montage, a music video, and everybody loved it. And it was just, I think it gave that kind of authentic vibe. So it's funny how
I
things
think that
resonate with people.
Backs up things like Sheldon and I have said, in the fact that sometimes people want to see authenticity because it doesn't look like an advert, it looks like content. And sometimes you don't have to get the red camera out and make a $10,000 video to connect with the people. So in terms of so at the end of this interview, I'm going to go online. What am I going to get if I start following your socials?
Funny.
Okay.
Funny. So definitely us. So the personal touch. So, and yeah, just kind of a constant, really kind of day to day of what it's like being in a band and stuff. And also, we see it as kind of, you're part of it just as much as we are. So we always, when we do our artwork, we sent out all the demos for the last two singles. We sent out 5, didn't we, Dave? And asked everybody which of these 5 are your 2 favourite. So we got everybody to choose which singles they wanted, which artwork they wanted, which photos they wanted, which cover photos for Facebook and things. And we're just trying to include people as much as possible.
And did you act upon them? You didn't do a Boating McBoat face and then kind of go, no, we're not going to do that.
No, not at all. We literally go through all the names, bits of paper and just draw it, and then we'll film that, put it on Instagram and say, okay, the winner is such and such, and then send the prizes to whoever the winner is, to whoever it is.
Say sometimes people request songs as well, and we make sure we put them in the set.
Yeah, we did a one-off cover of Pina Colada at a gig, and we've been hammered to do it live. So at our gig on Saturday, we're putting it back in the set. Because people keep asking for it, and apparently just doing it on a live stream wasn't enough. No, we want it live again, so we've had to relearn it all this.
You've got to give the public what they want.
Yeah.
Keep them entertained, and they'll keep coming back. So, in terms of what we've done so far with social media ads,
yes,
the big pay word,
dollars.
Yeah, I think that is our. We did a little bit, didn't we, with the. Back in September, we did a little bit on it. I will be honest, it's kind of it's the next thing for us really to look at, but it also is a bit daunting because I know you have to put a lot of money into it for them to be, well, not masses of money, but like a few £100 maybe, possibly.
It all depends what you want from it. If you can spend a little as £1 a day, then that, and you could maybe reach potentially a couple of hundred people. Obviously not all of those people will sit up and take notice, but you don't need it's just whatever budget you've got can be applied, and you can use it to reach people who have never heard of you before. And and if you want, because that's every musician, myself included, is in a situation whereby you want more people who don't know of you to know about your wares and your musical offerings. And whoever you are, from as a new artist starting out, Rihanna or Billie Eilish or whatever, someone has got to put their hands in their pocket and pay through whatever means for somebody to listen and to take notice, whether that's through some sort of radio plugger, social media advertising. It will either cost you money or take you time and effort to try and individually introduce yourself to other people. And that's just the easiest way in terms of creating a bit of content, paying to put it under the noses of other people, and then potentially interacting with those people who interact back with you. So, and even if it's only £1 a day, that's the start.
That's it. I mean, if you got like a smallish gig, and even if you spent 50 quid on a Facebook campaign raising the profile of that gig, and you sold 20 tickets at a £5 more, you've doubled your money on that investment. So it does, as Sheldon said, you don't have to be spending lots of money, because for a great part to begin with, you're going to be trying to work out who your targeted fans are and then spend more money on that. Whereas to begin with, like we demonstrated in the Facebook ad campaign that we ran on this channel a few months back, it was about spending a bit to determine who are the most interested and then spend a bit more on that, rather than just keep throwing stuff at a wall hoping some of it would stick, because that would just be the equivalent of just flyering, which you want a better return than that. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, I went through that with a fine tooth comb with your video on Facebook ads and stuff, and it is quite scary, the details.
It's daunting, yeah, and it does continue. It does they tweak the system over time, but it's something, if you stick at it, and there are even more so than the ones that we put out there, that there are loads of free resources to help you.
And also, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I don't want to be like sounding like an advocate for Facebook, but if it didn't work, their business model would be screwed.
Exactly.
So it does work. So maybe for the next gig, put aside 21 quid, do 3 quid a day for 7 days, and see kind of how it goes. You don't have to go, don't think you suddenly got to put a couple of £100 down to begin with, because I think you'd agree that until you've found your feet to know who you've done it for so long now, exactly.
I know more or less exactly who to target, where to target, and what I'm doing, and
also probably how much to spend to get the results you want.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't be putting the money down that you do now if you were just starting out, would you?
No, but I also would say that I also know when to stop spending if I know it's not working.
Right, and that's also a really a good bit of advice and stuff. So
yeah, it's definitely the next thing for us. It's probably kind of been a bit less on. We were hoping to sort of start to push the Instagram to like about 1,000 followers through ads and stuff, and then we had this offer from New York coming, didn't we, into going into Christmas, into the new year. So that's taken us a bit of time to kind of get a sort of a bit of sidestep to sort that out and things. But yeah, it's definitely the next thing with us. That we're all coming up to graduating in the summer. So one of the main reasons we want to sort of focus more on that is we're looking at also making the band into like a function band from the side to make us tighter, but then also to have like a vehicle to then inject money into the original side of stuff.
That's a very clever thing to do. Because unfortunately, there's more money potentially playing Bruno Mars songs at the very start.
Yeah.
Right, so that's more or less all the questions that we've got. What about questions that you might have for us?
I think, I just sort of, in this kind of new day and age with kind of taking on the marketing thing as well. So, I mean, if you just sort of, do you have any tips for kind of perhaps how bands or artists should balance maybe between creation and and marketing would you say? In kind of in terms of like, you know, how much time? Because I remember in Ari Herstand's book, he's always very like half and half. So I didn't know if you had any kind of like, perhaps in like week by week that goes by, and obviously it's going to really change depending when you've got upcoming shows. You're probably going to spend more on marketing than the lead up and things. But I didn't know if with your band, if you have any kind of like routine you tend to stick to.
I don't have a general routine as such. And again, my time is, like you sort of intimated, it's divided into, okay, right, so what have I got on the horizon? So this coming weekend, I've got a couple of days in the studio, so I've been sort of thinking more potentially about that than other things. But I've also had a couple of videos that are in the can ready to go. One's due to drop in about 90 minutes at the time of recording. So I think 50-50 is a pretty good ratio between creating the music and potentially the content, and the other half of actually sitting down, maybe editing it, getting it out there, planning all the admin that needs necessarily to go in terms of what I do in terms of Facebook ads and dealing with the constant replies that I have on various sort of platforms, because I know my nearest and dearest, she's always constantly having a go because my head's in my phone, constantly replying to the streams of messages. So I mean, it may well be that where you are at the moment, you're more sort of concentrated on the music and the creative side of things, just because there isn't as much sort of administration. But you have got to remember that if you don't devote enough time to your marketing, then no one's going to ever get to hear the music that you're creating,
investing in as well.
Yeah, and again, in terms, if you're spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds in a recording studio to record a single, is it not worth investing maybe even the same amount of money again, so people do actually get to hear what you've already invested?
Those are big bills you're talking about.
I know, but it's films. As I said before, films invest almost the sum of the
production costs.
Yeah. In marketing.
So there is a question then. So in terms of throwing this question straight back at you, your budget for your last single that you made at the delightful studio in Liverpool, out of the amount that you spent on that, how much of a percentage have you put aside on top to promote it?
So it was it's 500 for the single. But to be fair, we got some business sponsorship through that. So, and then I think that the playlist we're looking at targeting at, I think I looked at some more last night that we could submit it to, which has given us some results in the last single. I think it probably equated to about £80-90 to sort of target some playlists and things like that. But so I guess probably just under 10%, but I know you like your 25% figure, so he's going to call me up on that in a second.
But sometimes it's almost when the own words come out of your mouth, you think, oh, actually, maybe that's potentially not enough.
I mean, coming back to the hours thing, I mean, you're here pretty much every week on one night, going through, doing the video editing from gig footage and stuff like that. So you probably spend about 3 hours a week just here doing those things in addition. You would love it if other members of the band possibly contributed some of their time.
You know what? I suppose if I asked them, some of them might be able to.
So in terms of how many people are in your band, how many members? 5. So, even if all of you only did 1 hour each a week and you all agreed on a different activity, that would still give you 5 hours worth of marketing, and it's only cost you an hour and stuff like that. And, I'm sure you spend a considerable amount more time just rehearsing than that a week.
Yeah, I mean, our band's, it's pretty equal, isn't it, Dave? I mean,
so we all have our own jobs that we all do, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, Dave's a godsend with transport for the gigs. Luke, who's our keys player, anything technical. So he does all the demos and video editing, does all the artwork, photo shoots. He tends to look after emails and any DMs that come in on Instagram. He replies to all that. I tend to look after just the post for the social media. And then we've got Barney, who he tends to look after when we go into the studio. He works out all the backing vocals part, because despite being the singer, I just can't really do any other backing vocals. But he just churns them out. He's really good for that. And he's one of these guys who just knows everybody. He'll easily sell like 30, 40 tickets for a gig and stuff, just him. So
handy person to know.
Yeah.
Useful.
And then probably
Other
Joe's the
friends
most
are
chilled
available.
out guy.
Of course.
So it's not too bad as it goes, our band, from bad past experience in other bands where you end up being the only person. It is a lot better than what I've noticed in the past. But yeah,
Okay.
definitely, because I know it is a problem with bands all the time.
Oh yeah, it does tend to be one person that ends up doing 90% of the work, in my experience. Sheldon?
Yeah, I couldn't possibly comment. But like you said, that people don't. Obviously, I do a lot of the marketing for my band, and there are other people within the band doing things that I couldn't necessarily do, such as talk to people.
Yes, that's a fair point.
It's centre of the stage at a gig.
Yeah.
To the extent that he does.
So hopefully that answered question 1 for you. What, have you got
Any
any
more?
questions?
Have you got any burning questions, Dave?
Not only burning ones, no. I mean, it's
Well, I think
good
there was
information, yeah.
something about in terms of the, obviously your base is Liverpool at the moment, because that's where at uni, and that's where things are happening. But didn't you have some sort of query as to how to reach out and extend yourself to other cities?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it was kind of, I think that's where we've found ourselves now. Like, we've done a couple of sold out shows in Liverpool, and certainly the social media and up in the sort of the metrics on that is one of our goals. But so yeah, aside with kind of the online presence as well, is probably starting to reach out into other nearby cities. So I guess that was one of the questions, is advice for that.
It's as simple as paid traffic in terms of your social media ads. You know, one of the great things is you can geo-target wherever you want to show your content, because obviously you're Liverpool, so the nearest thing would be for you in terms of Manchester. Leeds probably is obviously a great music city, as is Sheffield, maybe even Chester. There's a few things going on there, and it's just a case of finding a budget, getting the appropriate content in terms of maybe yourselves playing live, showing it to those people on whatever your preferred platform is, which could be either the Instagram feed or Instagram stories, and just keep doing that again and again, so that people know who you are, who haven't heard of you before in those locations. And in some respect, it's as simple and straightforward as that. Obviously, these guys are Liverpool based, and the easiest way to build an audience in all these external cities is a little bit of ad spend, showing the content to people in those locations, using in terms of your musical similarities, whether it be again Arctic Monkeys, Oasis, and it may well be that those change on a song by song basis. So if you happen to do something that sounds a bit more like the Killers than something else, then you might go, tell you what, I will spend £5 in Manchester just to see how this reacts with Killers fans, and you do it like that.
And where is the next city that you want to play?
Probably, I guess Manchester would be.
Yeah, next biggest one be Manchester.
Probably next nearest. Yeah, that we know. It's generally the first place that bands from Liverpool tend to go into.
Or Leeds, I suppose.
A bit further now.
But I mean, ultimately, though, because you go all over the place now, you've been just doing that targeted ad campaign
again and again, whenever
in the places that you're playing, and
Yeah.
and it definitely works, doesn't it?
It does.
And stuff. So there you go. Fortunately, gents, you're gonna have to put your hands in your pocket, spend some moolah,
There we go.
and stuff. So, any other final questions that on the fly?
I think we were talking, weren't we, on some lunch the other day, weren't we, about like management and things?
Management, yeah, 'cause it's needed now, isn't it, to go?
Yeah, it was kind of, I think, like
Marketing management or band management?
I think just some all-round kind of probably. I mean, I guess either or. Like somebody who's kind of like a bit like a producer. I think we saw the value in having that outside body. So perhaps someone who's kind of outside the band who's able to sort of help just orchestrate the marketing better, or help with, we're looking at shows outside of the city and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. How bands might perhaps go about doing that, or when is generally a good time, that sort of thing. Because I know with your band, obviously, you sort of look after that part yourself, don't you?
I do, and it may well be that somebody might only be willing to take that role on once things have increased to a certain particular level. Other than that, then you're going to be paying some sort of retainer for somebody to take on that role and responsibility, because obviously normal forms of management will work on 20% of what's coming in, and if there isn't a great deal coming in and it's mostly going out, then there's obviously nothing in terms of somebody to take on that role and responsibility. I think maybe,
I suppose it really it will, the opportunities that will present themselves will vary based on their brand presence, won't it? The stronger their brand, the less risk you are for someone else coming along in a traditional management role, like Sheldon said, and taking a 20% cut of your gross. But at the moment, you might have to look at other ways of paying, unfortunately, again, to raise your brand presence that way. So those opportunities can present. So, in some respects, it might be, you've either got to put across a really strong argument to get someone to invest, or utilize the skills of someone who can do this, but be prepared to pay a consultancy fee. Would it be a consultancy fee?
Yeah, like monthly retainers. But the thing is, if you're like taking on the auspices of a social sort of media manager, the thing that they'll want to do is they'll want to, in order to increase their effectiveness, they will want money for more ad campaigns and actually ad spend. So it's almost like a double cost.
And they're also
because they're going to go, I can do stuff for you on social media, however it's only going to reach a certain organic amount. You're going to need to put your hand in your pocket.
And they're also going to need probably more content,
possibly,
in terms of but it's
my advice would be just to keep cracking on as you are, fine tune as you go, adapt and improve. And it may well be that once you reach a stage whereby you've established a foothold in all these nearby sort of cities and more people sort of know about you, then you might organically get people coming to you rather than you necessarily having to go out and speak to them.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we've said all along. We don't really worry too much about kind of reaching out to people. We just sort of focus on growing it, and let, as has happened like twice now, is people sort of approach us,
reach out to us,
because then it gives you that leverage in terms of negotiation and things. So targeted ads in nearby cities.
Targeted ads nearby cities to artists and bands who are musically similar to yourselves. And again, if you do individual sort of campaigns, you can see the results and where your music resonates best in terms of which audience, and to concentrate more of your ad spend on the ones that get you the cheapest results. Mm-hmm. It's as simple as that.
So there you go. I don't know how long today's episode has been.
I've no idea myself.
It's been full of useful information from both sides of the camera. I suppose.
I feel as though I'm on top of the pops.
I know.
Nice current reference there for the audience.
Even James is like, top of the
what?
So anyway, please, if you have any questions, if you'd like to be on the show, write in the comments beneath. I'm pointing in thin air again.
Yes, there might be a link there. If you're listening on the podcast, Greg's just waving his finger in the air.
Yeah, it's what I do.
It could be quite rude in several countries.
Yeah, thanks for that. Anyway, well, have a good week, because obviously it's Music Marketing Monday. Of
course it is, assuming you send me the file in time.
Yes, which has happened on more than one occasion. Yes. And we will see you same time, same place next week.
Cheers for coming in, guys.
Thanks very much.
See you later.
Nice to meet you midnight at 6.
There you go.
Thank you.